With this here, this ain't about being flashy. This is game day, son. It's only about one thing. Getting that W. That's the only thing that matters right now. Boy, are you ready?
The past is the past, you know? It's a new day, bro. My day. Gotta do it now.
Well, week one's in the books, and we got lots and lots to talk about. Marcus Katkin back here with Matt Dugal doing another podcast. Matt, what did you think? Week one is in the books. It's all over. What do you think?
It was a glorious day. Quarterbacks were, I think, definitely the story. Ton of points out there by them. It's starting to be the point where those 15 points for a quarterback is a bad game. I mean, it was crazy this weekend.
I think a bigger story was the underperformance in general of all the running backs this week. I mean, just running backs just did not get it done, it seemed, this week. And maybe that's because more teams are going with that committee approach or whatever. But
probably a direct result. The quarterback's performing, the running back's not. It's just the shift that we're kind of seeing here in the NFL.
Sure is. So let's start jumping into these games because we got 16 of them, obviously, to go through here. So let's start off with the Thursday night game. Broncos 49, Ravens 27. As we all know, Peyton Manning, 7 touchdown passes. I mean, the first time since, I think, 1969 that this has happened. Just an incredible, incredible performance. I still don't understand what they were doing leaving him in the game with 2 minutes left, up 22 points, but that's a whole other story. Broncos backfield, a little bit more clarity, I guess, now. We kind of saw Noshawn Moreno kind of take, the large, I wouldn't say chunk of the carries because they're still split up kind of evenly the way the game went, but was definitely in there in the first few series. Seemed to be the starter and the guy that you want to own moving forward. And then Julius Thomas kind of emerged out of nowhere basically with 2 touchdowns. What was your big takeaway from the Broncos side of the ball?
7 touchdowns by Peyton Manning.
Well, go for the obvious. Go for the low-hanging fruit.
Unbelievable, obviously. None of us ranked him number one. Certainly we thought he'd have a good game, but this was outstanding. Their offense really is clicking. I think Julius Thomas is a really nice weapon for Peyton. He likes to utilize the tight end. Julius is the most athletic tight end he's ever had. I mean, he had a steady, better than steady. He had a great tight end in Dallas Clark in his younger days back in Indianapolis. Julius is a different kind of breed. This kid's a freak. I don't think the Ravens really planned on it. I think he was kind of the forgotten man out there, so we'll see how this goes for next week. But I'm a believer in Julius. Definitely liked what I saw out of him. Noshawn is the guy, but his effort was definitely uninspiring. Nothing special there. I think I talked about it a few podcasts ago. I thought he would be, and more just because they know who they have in him, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to protecting the quarterback. That's one thing he did really well in this game for sure. So, yeah, he's the guy to own now. I still don't give up on Monty Ball yet. I still think by week 5 or so, he's going to be the guy there. But
yeah, just jumping back to Julius Thomas here for a second. For me, I still, and I know you're going to call me crazy on this, but I would have him more as a high-end tight end 2, I think. Only because there's been so many tight ends that have broken out already. And I think with Julius Thomas, I mean, number one, Peyton Manning's not going to throw for 7 touchdowns every week. Number 2, there was almost no game film on Julius Thomas until this past week. So the Ravens obviously had no way to prepare for him. So I think moving forward, teams will focus a little bit more on him and kind of, I'm not going to say shut him down, but keep him a little bit more in check. And then number 3, I think Peyton's going to do a little bit better job of spreading the ball around and getting Eric Decker a little bit more involved, which is going to take away from some of those targets. So I think with all that said, for me, Julius Thomas is a high-end tight end 2. I'm not saying don't go out there and pick him up off your waiver wire because you definitely should, but I think a lot of people are going to immediately see this and think top 5 tight end for the rest of the year, and I'm not believing in that.
You and I definitely agree on Julius. Check out the rankings. I haven't seen yours, but I got a feeling you're going to be surprised where I had him. But I mean, I can see where your reserved thought is on him here, but I think he's going to be a guy that's going to impress you.
Ravens side of the ball, though, almost an even split in the running back workload between Ray Rice and Bernard Pierce. 12 carries for Rice, 9 for Pierce. Rice still did finish with his 20 touches, which is what you definitely want to see, and he's definitely going to continue to be the PPR beast that you would expect him to be. The real big surprise, though, for me was Dallas Clark and the amount of attention that he got. 12 targets, 7 receptions. Again, I mean, I think Dallas Clark, tight end 2, role. I mean, there's just so many tight ends that pop this weekend. These guys, I feel, are all going to be waiver wire pickups and tight end twos.
Yeah, I'm not buying into this Dallas Clark thing at all. He had 12 targets. He looked awful. I mean, a couple fumbles, just some boneheaded plays out there.
He didn't play last year, did he? I don't think he played.
Yeah, he did play. He was hurt though, but he got a little bit of time. I think this was a big case of Dixon was just coming back off an injury. I think he'll be integrated more into the offense. Dallas Clark will be have his role reduced. Like I said, he just wasn't impressive. He got the job done, but they threw the ball a ton. And like I said, Dixon just coming back from injury. I'm not buying the Dallas Clark hype at all. He's definitely not a guy I'm looking to pick up.
Yeah, next game on here we got Patriots 23, Bills 21. Patriots side of the ball, Ridley fumbles and gets benched in favor of Shane Vereen. Ironically, it turns out that Vereen broke a small bone in his hand on the first play of the game, according to Jay Glazer at Fox. He was placed on the injured reserve, designated to return list today, and he can't return until week 11. Now, previously, before Ridley obviously took the role and ran with it, Vereen was the starter, losing it out to Ridley in preseason their rookie year when Vereen got hurt. We've seen Ridley before get put in the doghouse for fumbling the ball, so it's possible that this upcoming week maybe we see closer to a 50-50 split with somebody, but who do you think it's going to be, LeGarrette Blount or Bolden?
Your guess is as good as mine. I guess because of the familiarity.
Or Leon Washington, I guess.
With the familiarity of the offense, I think it's going to be Bolden, but it could be Blount. It could be Washington, filling in that Vereen / the roles are going to be hard to define until we see it, and that's why I'm just going to steer clear of them. I'm not dropping Ridley by any means. Obviously, that's not anything we're considering here. I think Ridley's going to be the guy, especially with Vereen going down. That's kind of good for owners. Obviously, you don't wish an injury on anybody. It's going to be good for the Ridley owners. You don't have to worry about him. I think he's the best running back there, and that cream is going to rise to the top. What we've seen in the past, when he's been benched, he plays the next week. He gets his usual touches. It's something that I think Ridley's still going to be solid this week, but I don't know who he's going to be splitting time with. I don't think it's going to be a 50-50, though.
I moved him way down in my rankings this week. Yep. Way down. I think I had him outside the top 20.
Yeah, I think I did too. I definitely did as well. But more a case of Parcells. Belichick just scares me. You never know what the hell he's going to do. What do you think it's going to be if there is...
Shanahanigans, as they say. I think there's a good chance that we see a little bit of Bolden, a little bit of Blount, see which one performs better, maybe, and then maybe he goes with a hot hand a little bit.
Yep.
But I still think Ridley gets his carries. Ridley's going to get his 10 to 12 carries at least. And maybe he just goes completely back to Ridley. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Would you be? Would you be surprised at all if he gets 20 carries for 130 yards next week?
Not at all.
And the next guy gets 5. Who knows?
Another thing that I'm not surprised about: Amendola getting hurt already. Yep. I mean, he got banged up a little bit. Something with his groin, comes out of the game, goes back into the game. But now it's basically being said that he's all but out of their Thursday night game this week. Right. So if you own Danny Amendola, it's already happening.
Yeah. It wasn't play 2 like Druin said, or play 1, but pretty much.
Pretty damn close. And Julian Edelman seems to be rising up people's rankings this week, and why not? 7 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. The 2 rookies, though, that got kind of all the hype in the preseason, and I kept saying I wanted to see it in the game before believing. Tompkins and Sudfeld really didn't do anything. Tompkins 4 catches on 14 targets for 42 yards. Sudfeld 0 catches. Possibly pulled a hamstring, and he also is up in the air for week 2 here. Are you touching either one of those guys? Are you thinking about starting either one of those guys this week?
I'm not starting him, but I'm not dropping a guy like Tompkins. He had 14 targets. The concerning thing is, 14 targets and you catch 4 of them. But if he threw it 14 times his way, he must have some confidence in the kid. I think the timing will come. I didn't believe this hype either. I had him ranked pretty low last week, and this week he'll be even lower.
The targets you do like to see, but this week playing against the Jets, he's going to be lined up on Cromartie.
Yep.
So he is going to get shut down this weekend.
Well, I don't know if Cromartie's going to follow him around the field. I don't think he's going to be Cromartie's none of these guys
who's
are
Cromartie
concerning.
going to guard if he's not guarding Tompkins?
None of these receivers are good enough for them to have to chase Cromartie around the field. I think they're just going to do what they do, and he's definitely a guy that I'm not dropping. I'm going to keep him on my roster for sure. Definitely not excited about him. And
Sudfeld's close to dropping, if not dropping.
Yeah, I mean, Gronkowski's coming back. Yeah, he did pull his hamstring. Maybe that was a lot of the reason why he didn't play. Uncertain for week 2. Chances are he doesn't play in this game. I don't know. He's a guy that I'm dropping. There's a ton of guys out there. Julius Thomas, go pick him up. We talked about him earlier. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I would take Thomas over Sudfeld, that's for sure.
I didn't buy the hype on Sudfeld. I had him ranked 13th coming in, and looks like next week it's going to be a lot lower.
Yeah, obviously. I don't think I have him ranked for this upcoming week.
Yeah, me neither.
Bill's side of the ball, E.J. Manuel performs pretty well. 150 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Almost an even split at the running backs, though, with Jackson and Spiller. Spiller obviously getting the lion's share of them with 17 carries to Jackson's 13. But you know what? This kind of made me realize why I wasn't thinking about this sooner. We are going to see a really heavy run offense, focus on the run with the Bills, I think, this year. I think basically E.J. Manuel is going to have a season. I'm not going to say a season like Russell Wilson last year as far as performance-wise, but I think that's how it's going to play out. You're going to see Manuel with a 20 to 25 attempts per game type of thing, and they're just going to go heavy run offense, and just you're going to see Jackson and Spiller both 12 to 15 carries a week, I think. I think they're just going to go heavy run here, and they're both going to have value. Obviously, Spiller more than Jackson.
Yeah, and this doesn't scare you about Spiller, does it? I mean, I'm still buying C.J. Spiller's upside and his ability to be a top 5 guy by the end of the year. I think what it does do, though, Jackson, he's a guy that keep an eye on. He's a good player. He's a guy you just can't keep off the field. And with Buffalo, there's not a whole lot of weapons there. You got to feed the ball to him. I know Spiller is there as well, but like you said, it's going to be a heavy run game. They're both going to get their opportunities. If Spiller can get, I think, what did he get, 22 touches this week?
Something like that, yeah.
If he can get that, give me him every week.
Next game, Bears 24, Bengals 21. Pretty much what you expected from the Bears. I mean, Marshall, 8 catches, 104 yards and a touchdown. Forte, almost 100 total yards. Nothing spectacular, nothing out of the ordinary, I felt here. You got anything on the Bears side of the ball?
No, Cutler looked good. And Alshon Jeffrey, he got 8 targets. He's a guy I like his talent. He's one of those kind of guys where you're talking about a handcuff type, especially with the issues with the hip that Marshall has, although he looked fine this game. A guy just to keep an eye on, not necessarily one you have to roster, but in a deeper league, like our 12 team at home, he's a guy you got to have, I think, on your team. All
right. Bengals side of the ball, Giovanni Bernard, a little disappointing. Only got 5 touches. Ben Jarvis Greenell is definitely the guy. Getting 14 carries, really didn't do much with him, aside from his lone touchdown that may have saved you a little bit if you started him. A.J. Green is a beast. He is the number 2 wide receiver in the league, I still feel, behind Calvin Johnson. There's no question now. Tyler Eifert, this was interesting. 5 catches for 47 yards, and I think he had a 45-yard reception that was called back by a penalty. So he's definitely getting some work early. I think he's another tight end you want to keep your eyes on. Definitely don't go up and pick him up right now because him and Gresham both had 5 receptions. So they are still working, Gresham in there, but another guy to watch.
Yeah, the thing is I think they're going to eat into each other just because they're both pretty good players. You saw 5 targets apiece, but Eifert is a rookie. He's a guy that's going to be coming along and no doubt a great talent. Ben Jarvis was just so 14 for 25. That's just hideous. 2.1 yards per carry. Yep. Don't bail on Giovanni yet. He's got some talent. He's going to get some more looks. It's just a case of the old veteran who's a solid player. He's not going to lose his job immediately. Bernard's going to, I think, have better days coming for sure. And yeah, A.J. Green, a freak. I mean, if Calvin Johnson wasn't around, he'd be the best wide receiver in football, no question.
Yeah, no question. Dolphins 23, Browns 10. Dolphins, Mike Wallace, only 1 catch for 15 yards and was very upset after the game, kind of complaining that, this was the coach's game plan. Talked to my coaches as to why he wasn't getting the work. Lamar Miller and Daniel Thomas saw almost another, even split workload. Lamar Miller obviously not looking good at all, 10 carries for only 3 yards. Hartline, though, getting 14 targets, pulls down 9 of them for 114 yards and a touchdown. For me, I think Miller's going to bounce back. I don't think this was, a showing of his talent. I think this was more about the Browns' defense a little bit and focusing on the run and shutting that down. I think Miller bounces back, and I think he's a good buy low candidate. What do you think of Lamar Miller?
Yeah, definitely a buy low kind of guy.
Well, you're not buying high on a guy that only has 3 yards.
Exactly. I mean, no question. 10 for 3. You hope the owner just gives up on him. Oh my God, I can't believe I fell for this. I got to get rid of him. And they're panicking. They took him early. You don't want the guy you took in the 4th, 5th, 6th round going 10 for 3 yards. So definitely a good buy low. I think there's going to be much better days ahead. The Browns are a good defense. They really are. And Mike Wallace getting shut down was no surprise to me. Joe Hayden is one of the best cornerbacks in football.
He doesn't have that chemistry yet with Tannehill.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate Wallace was complaining about it, after the game. They got the win. That's really what matters. I think it's Hartline had 9 for 114 and a touchdown. I think the reason for that is let's just go away from Joe Hayden. Like I said, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Let's go the other way this week. Mike Wallace may be another one. Go ahead and get him. You might be able to get him real cheap. And I see better days ahead for him.
I'm still staying away from Wallace. I just don't think, last year kind of showed what he's capable of. He was not good last year. And I just don't see it. He doesn't have the chemistry with Tannehill. Now he's not going to be on the coach's good side with comments like he was making. I'm personally staying away from Wallace. I could understand why buying low when he only has 1 catch, but I still just... even if you have to pay 75 cents, 80 cents on the dollar, I'm staying away from him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, get him cheap, and it's something I don't mind. They paid him a lot of money. They probably want to make him happy. I could see a good game next week, but I agree. He's not a guy that I have to go get, but if I can get him cheap, I'm looking at it.
Brownside, Cameron, he is what we thought he was. 9 catches, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Richardson continues to show that he's touchdown dependent. 47 yards rushing, 30 receiving, no touchdowns. What was more surprising to you? Cameron still kind of surging along, or Richardson kind of still just being Richardson?
I think I was surprised at how few touches Richardson had here.
Yep, 15 touches.
Yeah, I thought he would definitely get some more work than that. He's definitely their best offensive player. Maybe another guy, go ahead and buy low. If you're not... Who's going to trade Trent Richardson after 1 week? Not many, but if you can catch a guy that's kind of panicking, I'm not worried about him at all. And Cameron, yeah, he is what we thought he was. We all had him ranked real high. He might even move up even more in this week's rankings. I know he did for me. Chudzinski, Norv Turner, they get the tight ends involved. We've been saying it all along, and here it was. He actually had another touchdown called back, which he was clearly down on, but just he was very involved in this passing game. He's their best threat to throw the ball to, especially with Josh Gordon out there. Love Cameron for the rest of the year.
Richardson, I am getting a little concerned about, tell you the truth. I mean, yeah, 77 total yards, but he is just so dependent on those touchdowns. I mean, this was your first round pick. I mean, it just fit those 15 touches. It just less than 50 yards rushing. That's a little scary. You can't be touchdown dependent on a team that doesn't score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, they were coming from behind the whole time. That could have been, that's a lot to do with, I think.
And you don't think the Browns aren't going to spend a lot of time this year coming from behind?
Whedon looked terrible. 3 picks. Yeah, I hear you. It's one of those things where a good player on a bad team, how good are they really going to be in fantasy football? We saw it with Steven Jackson for years. So I hear you. I hear your concern, but I think he's going to be okay.
Lions 34, Vikings 24. Lions, Stafford continues to just chuck the ball every chance he gets. 43 pass attempts, 357 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Would have had at least one more had Calvin Johnson not been out of bounds on, he was out of bounds on one, and then the other one he kind of fell down and the ball hit as he was landing because he likes to kind of support himself with the ball, which is one of his big pet peeves he needs to start, my pet peeves, I should say, he needs to get away from doing. But could have been a better day for Stafford. Obviously, it could have been a lot better day for Johnson if he had those 2 catches. But how about Reggie Bush? Reggie Bush is just continuing what he was doing in the preseason. It just looks amazing. He looks like he was built to play for the Lions, doesn't he? It's just amazing.
Yeah, he looked awesome. I'm a big Vikings fan, so I was watching this game. every play, and he groin injury. He dislocated his thumb right in the start. He played through him, and he looked great. Imagine what he does if he doesn't dislocate his thumb and pull his groin in a week. So, yeah, I agree with you. This offense is perfect for Reggie Bush. This is the guy they wanted back when they tried to do this a few years ago with Javad Best. And this is a guy that I think can take the beating a little better. He's shown, hey, you've gone through these injuries now the last few years. I've liked what I've seen with him. He seems like he's gotten a little tougher. He's gotten over that problem he had in the beginning of the year.
25 touches.
Love the touches, yeah. And he is just a player that he makes guys just whiff. He's exciting. He gets the ball in space. Love him in this offense. He moved way up in my rankings this week.
Me too. He's moving way up in my rankings. Drake Bell, though, I hate as that touchdown vulture, though.
Yep.
I know one of the touchdowns, Bush could have had another touchdown if he wasn't down at the half-yard line like he was. But Drake Bell, that is kind of, it just sucks. It sucks when you have a player that does so well, and then he gets the touchdowns vultured from him. But Vikings side, Peterson.
Well, hey, hold on real quick. Drake Bell, obviously he had a big game. Are you buying it? No, probably not those kind of points, but are you buying him as a good flex guy? Definitely somebody you want to own if you have Reggie Bush?
If you have Reggie Bush, yeah, you want him on your team. But flex guy, no, because he's not going to get the yardage to be a flex guy for me. He's going to have to score a touchdown to be considered a flex, and you can't rely on touchdowns, especially when you got a guy that's, even in this, probably his best game of his career, only had 11 touches. I don't think he's going to have 11 touches every game moving forward. I'm thinking 8, maybe 10. I don't think he's going to get the work. He's going to be dependent on those touchdowns.
Yeah, 8 to 10 touches, plus you're going to be the goal line guy. I don't mind him. I think he's definitely a good flex bye-week fill-in type guy. But yeah, maybe not your flex week to week for sure.
So Vikings, Peterson again, you kind of saw the highlights, the 78-yard touchdown on his first handoff of the game. Made you believe, yep, he's hitting 2,500 yards this year. But then finishes the rest of the game, 18 carries for 93 yards, only gets 15 yards in the final 17 carries, and that offensive line looked horrendous. Matt, you said we both watched this game. That offensive line looks terrible.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. The only thing it's more how bad Christian Ponder is,
But he was just as bad last year, and Peterson looked good.
Yeah.
Maybe give some of the credit to the Lions.
The box, though. They stacked the box, and you're right. Yeah, Lions D, maybe their
defensive line is amazing. Yep, but still,
absolutely,
it did not look good. The 3 TDs obviously helped save him.
I still love Adrian, no question about
it. Receiving, Jerome Simpson has a huge game, 140 yards. Jennings obviously was very disappointing with only 33 yards. Are you buying either of those? Are you saying, yep, Simpson's for real, or nope, Jennings isn't?
No, Ponder's terrible. I don't want any part of that passing game. Rudolph included. It's just he is bad. He really is. I'm hoping they go to Castle, and then we'll reevaluate then. Castle had a good year back in New England. He was on a pretty shitty team there in Kansas City. He's got to be better than Ponder though, and I think this leash has to get shorter. Ponder's just terrible. He hasn't shown improvement. And with a running back like that, you and I would be able to go out there and have a pretty good game, you'd think. Yeah, but he's bad.
He is just so bad. Colts 21, Raiders 17. Luck pretty efficient, kind of a game manager type role. 18 of 23 passing, 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ballard seems to be the guy that you want to own right now. Gets 13 carries to Bradshaw's 7. I think that might be just Ahmad Bradshaw missed all of preseason, maybe doesn't know the playbook entirely yet. This is their way of slowly working him in. And then Reggie Wayne, it kind of, I predicted a drop-off for him this year, but doesn't look like he's lost a step. 8 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. What do you think? When or if does Bradshaw take over that lead running back role?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, don't you think Bradshaw's a great buy low right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I probably shouldn't have told you that because maybe you're trying to work a deal for him in our home league as well. But yeah, he's going to be, like you said, he was hurt in the preseason. He's new to the team. I think this is a case of Vic Ballard, being familiar with the offense and Bradshaw not being healthy or familiar with what's going on completely there. I'm saying by week 3, 4, you're going to see more of a 75-25 type.
Yeah, I was saying week 4 or
70-30.
Yeah, week 4 or 5, I think, is when you start seeing Bradshaw.
So that's why I said
Ballard.
Buy low, go get him now before you don't want to wait till he has that.
But I don't think Ballard is going to go away.
No,
and I still think that they're going to pass quite a bit. So I don't think Ballard. I don't think Bradshaw is going to be a crazy buy low candidate. But right now, yeah, obviously his value is a little bit lower than it should be, but I don't think it's crazy low.
See, I don't know if they're gonna throw quite a bit today. This game, 23 passes to 26 rushes. But only
20 rushing attempts for their top 2 running backs.
Yeah, and Lux can be. They weren't designed plays certainly, but this is a game that wasn't a blowout by any means, and they showed you the balance between the two. I think that's going to be more what they're going to be known for this year, balance. So, I don't know. Bradshaw, I like him. I'm going to try to go get him.
Raider side of the ball, we had your NFL rushing leader, Terrell Pryor, a quarterback. We'll give Matt a little pat on the back for his deep sleeper call of Terrell Pryor. I guess you got to throw a dog a bone every so often.
Yep.
But
I'll take it.
Yeah, he was your NFL rushing leader after Sunday, going into Monday night, which is amazing as a quarterback. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
Yeah, that's a good call.
McFadden does not get it done. 48 yards rushing, 18 receiving. Streeter leads the team in receiving, 5 for 70. Denarius Moore kind of saves the team with a touchdown. Pryor, yes, the rushing makes him relevant. He's not going to have rushing like that every week. For me, I'm still not putting a waiver claim in on him because that rushing is not going to continue. He was playing against one of the worst defenses in the league.
I think the Colts defense will be a little better than you think. I like Pryor. Obviously, I talked about him earlier, and I think McFadden. Didn't McFadden have a receiving touchdown called back, or there was a penalty?
Yeah, I believe so.
There's another touchdown if that didn't happen there. He's going to improve in the passing game, I think. He's a stellar running quarterback. Obviously, you saw that this week, and that's something everybody knew anyways. I just love these running quarterbacks. They can get it done in another way, even if their passing game isn't going well. So I like him. He's a guy I would put a claim in, depending on who your quarterback is. If you've got one of the top 7, that preseason top 7, 8 guys, not a need for it. But if you're sitting out there, and your starting quarterback is, Eli, even though he had a great game. Maybe I'd pick up Pryor, depending on what else I have on the bench. Although I'm big on having one quarterback, and I'm still not picking him up.
See, I just think there's so many of those guys out there. Probably on your waiver wire is still E.J. Manuel, Geno Smith, other running style quarterbacks that are going to get you points like that. And I think out of the 3, Pryor has the worst arm.
Yeah, that's no doubt for sure. He looks terrible throwing the football. He's closer to Tim Tebow than those other guys, but...
Right, and I don't think those rushing yards are going to continue.
Yep.
And that's why I'm just saying I'd rather have EJ Manuel would be number 1 for me, Geno Smith number 2, and then Terrell Pryor number 3. So that's why I'm just saying I wouldn't even put a waiver claim in on this guy. I don't see any scenario where you're saying, yep, I want this guy to be my backup. Again, it's the Colts. They're one of the worst defenses in the league. I don't see it happening.
I'd have him 2 out of those 3, but I agree with you.
Saints Falcons, not quite the shootout that we thought this was going to be. Saints 23, Falcons 17. Breeze is Breeze. RB situation is still a complete mess. 9 carries for Thomas, 9 carries for Ingram, 8 for Sproles. Thomas kind of does the most with his carries, but Sproles leads the team in total yards for their running backs with 110. Colston and Graham each had a TD catch to kind of help save their fantasy value. The Colts are the Colts. You're starting every Colt. You're starting every Saint.
Right.
Aside from Pierre Thomas and probably Mark Ingram. But, Colston's a starter. Graham's a starter. Breeze is a starter. Sproles. Really not too much to take away here with the Saints game.
No, just keep an eye on Kenny Stills. 5 targets. I think he's going to be that guy in this offense. The Robert Meacham, the Devery Henderson of the past, the go-deep guy. But I think he's actually got a little more skill than them. Not anybody go ahead and pick up right now, but just a guy to keep an eye on.
Falcons side, Steven Jackson looked really, really good in limited touches. 11 carries, 77 yards rushing, 5 receptions, 45 yards receiving. Julio getting it done, 7 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. Roddy was announced kind of right before game time that he was going to be very limited going into the game. And, actually had a couple of people tweet, who should I start, Miles Austin or Roddy White? And I kept telling them Austin, because when Roddy's telling you he's going to be limited, he's going to be limited. 2 catches for 19 yards for the people that left him, left him in their lineup. And I actually said Sunday morning, Harry Douglas, a sneaky play this week with Roddy being limited. And he was 4 catches for 93 yards. I guess 2 things here. Number 1, Steven Jackson looked great. Number 2, Roddy's hurt. He's already said that he's going to be, kind of dinged up for a while. So I think until we see the big game from Roddy, I'm keeping him out of my starting lineup. What do you think about Roddy White?
Yeah, it's tough because it depends on who you've got, on your bench. I'm waiting for him to have another bad game next week, and then he's a great buy low guy. But I agree with you. He's already said he's planning on being limited for the next week or 2. A couple weeks, I think he said. So definitely a guy that if I have another option, like you said, like a Miles Austin, I'm going to play Miles Austin. But it really depends on what you've got on your bench. So look to our rankings when the time comes for you to make a decision.
Yeah, I think I got him in the low teens this week.
I think I had him at like 18.
Just because it's kind of hard to put him behind guys like Cecil Shorts and that type of thing. So I do still have him kind of up there, but pay attention to that injury. If this lingers, keep dropping him out there. Like I said, I really want to see one Roddy White game before I stick him back in my starting lineup now. Just because I would hate to have games like this where he's only getting you 19 yards. But
one thing too from the New Orleans side, it was good to see Darren Sproles get 8 carries. Kind of something that you talked about, you expected with the good old ball coach coming back. He's getting more involved in the rushing game. You got to love that because he's going to be there in the passing game.
14 total touches for him.
If he gets 14 touches, you're gonna have a lot of good games.
Yeah, it's gonna be dangerous. He's a dangerous guy with limited touches.
Marcus, I don't know if we included Douglas when we talked about the handcuffing air quotes wide receivers.
Actually.
Okay,
yeah.
So I was gonna say so. In case we didn't, you definitely agree he's maybe one. Whether you got Julio or Roddy.
Yeah, obviously more so if you have Roddy. I think now.
Right now,
Go out if you're a Roddy owner. Go out there and just pick him up and kind of hold on to him until you find out what's going on with this news. But Jets 18, Bucks 17. Geno Smith getting his first win of his career. Another game where the running backs pretty much evenly split. You knew Bilal Powell was going to be the starter going into it. Gets 12 carries to Chris Ivory's 10. Neither one of them obviously get much done. They combine for only 44 yards rushing. Interesting side, I thought, for the Jets. Kellen Winslow, 7 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. He is obviously Geno Smith's security blanket, the guy he's looking to when he's under pressure, and the guy he's probably looking to on one of either his first or second read. So I think Kellen Winslow kind of has some value this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of buying this. Kellen was once a very good player. He's obviously toiled around the league since his injuries. That freaking motorcycle, the staph infection. He had a rough start to the career, but he began very well. And like you said, yeah, he's got a rookie quarterback here. The rookie quarterbacks, they tend to look to those easier type throws, which the tight end is a lot of times.
Cumberland did get hurt in this game too, so Cumberland could have been that security blanket, but obviously it looks like I think even when Cumberland comes back, it's going to be Winslow. Yeah,
and just remember though, Winslow is a huge injury risk, so I don't know how much I'm buying into him. But if I have Sudfeld, I'm dropping him to pick up Winslow.
We're talking about 2 borderline droppable guys, and these are 2 guys that may or may not.
But how many guys out there have Sudfeld as their starting tight end right now?
Then there's other options. There's other options than Kellen Winslow. I think both guys are guys to watch, not really guys to pick up right now.
One guy that I like to see 9 targets for was Stephen Hill. He didn't really have any bit of a good line here, and not somebody I'm saying go ahead and drop everybody to pick up. Just keep an eye on him. Big guy, young player. Him and Geno could probably have a good connection. I'm just guessing, totally don't have a clue, but because of their age, they're guys that can lean on each other.
I wrote about him as a breakout receiver.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up. I know you liked him as a breakout, so I like to see the 9 targets, and he did have 6 catches. They were 39 yards. He's a guy that's going to get some big plays. He's fast. He's extremely tall. He can go up and get a football. So a name to keep an eye on for sure, Stephen Hill.
I think some of the stats I had in that, I mean, I wrote that breakout column a while ago, but I think some of the numbers I had were that he had a higher vertical jump than A.J. Green and Calvin Johnson, and was faster in the 40 time than Julio Jones.
Yep.
So, I mean, when you think about that, a guy that runs faster than Julio and can jump higher than Calvin, that's nuts. That is a freak.
He's definitely got all the physical tools, and it looks like Geno Smith is going to be a competent quarterback. How did you think he looked in this one?
I mean, I didn't really get to see the film on it, but,
Yep.
I mean, the stats look okay. I think he did better than probably Mark Sanchez would have done.
Yeah, I get to watch a little bit of it, and like I said, not a ton, but yeah, absolutely better than Mark Sanchez. So Stephen Hill, keep an eye on it, Marcus. I think that might have been a good call. We'll see how that turns out.
All right, so on the Buck side of the ball, Muscle Hamster, 24 carries, which you like to see, but only 65 yards, 1 touchdown. No carries by any other running backs, though, for the Bucks, so that's obviously a good sign to see.
Oh, yeah.
Vincent Jackson goes off, obviously, 7 catches for 154 yards.
Yeah.
Mike Williams, again, all he does is catch touchdowns. 4 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown. No other Buccaneer besides Vincent Jackson or Mike Williams had over 4 yards receiving. I mean, God, that's going to be so easy to game plan for, isn't it?
Yeah, Freeman didn't look good. I think we'll keep an eye on that, but I don't know if he's going to keep his job all year.
Yeah, I mean, Shiano does like Glennon. He tried getting him out of high school to kind of come play for him at Rutgers. So that'll be interesting to watch. But like I said, Doug Martin is a huge buy low candidate, I think, right now. I mean, he's getting all of the Buccaneers carries. So if you can buy low on him right now, you definitely should.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, obviously, I'm not trading Doug Martin if I've got him, but absolutely.
Right. But if you
you've
can.
got a panicked owner out there, he's definitely a guy to go get. There's going to be much better days ahead for him for sure.
Yep. Next game on here, we got Titans 16, Steelers 9. CJ 2K, 25 carries for 70 yards. Really like seeing those 25 carries from CJ. Don't like seeing that he only ended up with 70 yards, though. Jackie Battle vultures a touchdown away from, I guess, Sean Green and Chris Johnson after coming in for Sean Green when he got hurt. And no receiver for the Titans had over 50 yards, as Jake Locker only threw for 125. Most notably, Kenny Britt, a guy that every year we keep thinking is going to be this stud that's going to play when he's healthy.
Kenny Britt.
1 catch for 15 yards. I mean, I guess the biggest news, like I said, Chris Johnson, I love that he got 25 carries. Didn't quite get it done. But, hey, I mean, maybe it's just a 1 week thing. What do you think?
I haven't been able to watch this game yet, so that it's hard for me to comment on that. Like you said, I love to see the touches. He's an explosive player. You expect one of those to go for a big gain. His longest carry was actually 11 yards. In Pittsburgh, is generally a good defense. I don't know how good they are this year. It's a little early to tell you that, but it could chalk it up to that. The offensive line looked so good in the preseason, so I don't know what to take from it. But I think
it's a one-game fluke.
The thing that was upsetting, and it's not a huge surprise, but the goal line work is not going to be his. So
we knew that, though.
Right,
you knew that.
Yep,
you knew that when you drafted him.
I think he's fallen for me just a little bit. Are you still in love with him?
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Right. 25 carries, I love it. Not 25 touches, 25 carries.
Yep.
So when they start involving him in the passing game too, just look out. I love him. Steelers side, another running backfield that is just a complete mess. Redmond and Stephen Howling's just it's very, very close in the split, but Stephen Howling actually tore his ACL in this game, so Steelers are going to re-sign Jonathan Dwyer. They've already announced that Redmond's still going to remain the starter, but I got to believe that at some point Dwyer takes that back, right?
I actually ranked Dwyer ahead of Redmond this week.
Yeah,
and
you ranked both very, very low, I hope.
Oh, absolutely. I don't want either one of them.
Yeah.
And it's just a mess out there. We'll see when Le'Veon Bell comes back. They're going to be begging for him to come back. But
yeah, no kidding. That's another guy you should go out and buy low on right now.
Try to.
Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders, they both did pretty well. Brown with 71 yards, Sanders with 57. Nothing that exciting.
Yeah, Sanders 12 targets, though. He's a guy maybe you can move up in your rankings a little bit.
So next game, Seahawks 12, Panthers 7. Wilson acted as a good game manager, 25 of 33 for 320 yards and a touchdown. Lynch just 43 yards and 17 carries. And Doug Baldwin comes out as your leading receiver, 7 catches for 91 yards. I got to say, I think I'm buying into Doug Baldwin as their number 1 receiver. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd still rather have Tate right now. I think I'm about to jump off the Sidney Rice train finally. Yeah. He's my old Viking friend, but I'm sick and tired of him. Him and Kenny Britt, I'm done with you.
Breaking up with him.
I just like Tate better
it's
because
not
I
you,
think
it's me.
Yeah, I think I like Tate better just because of I think he's a better talent. But Baldwin, 7 catches, 91 yards, 8 targets. Tate wasn't far behind with 7. I think he's a little bit more of an electric player. That's why I'm going to say Tate's a little bit ahead of him. But yeah, I mean, nobody there excites me in the receiving game for Seattle.
Speaking of nothing exciting you, Cam Newton, only 125 yards passing, 38 rushing, 1 passing touchdown. That is not exciting at all. I guess what's exciting, Matt, you've been liking this guy all preseason. D'Angelo Williams, 17 carries for 86 yards. Yeah, I mean, all right, I guess. It's D'Angelo Williams, though. I'm just not buying into it yet. I mean, it is encouraging to see that type of yards on those carries against the Seahawks defense, but I'm not getting it. Steve Smith, 6 receptions for 51 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Seahawks defense, they are what you think. They should be able to kind of shut these guys down. I think more importantly, though, the Panthers defense surprisingly able to shut the Seahawks defense, the Seahawks offense down.
Yeah, the Panthers defense looked very good. Definitely a team to take a look at, out there for your DST. Yeah, I'm loving D'Angelo. 17 for 86, 5.1 yards per carry against a very good Seattle defense. Definitely didn't expect that kind of production. He looked very good. The concerning part is the fumble. Plus, he also had another one that was he lost the ball. It wasn't a fumble, but just the protection of the ball wasn't quite there. Maybe a case of just trying to do a little too much. It's his first time, being the man in a while, so he probably wanted to prove it. He also had 3 catches for 14 yards, so he actually had 100 yards of total offense. He's a guy I like for sure. This was a tough defense and a hard matchup, and he played pretty well.
He did play all right. He's a guy to watch out for. I'm still just I got to see it a couple more times before I buy into it.
And we've talked about a couple of buy lows. Is Cam one?
Yes.
Great defense. I mean, you didn't expect anything. We all ranked him fairly low this week against Seattle.
It's a tough defense.
Yeah,
tough defense. So Chiefs 28, Jaguars 2. Charles is everything that I've loved about Charles all offseason. Didn't quite get, I guess he kind of got the touches you'd expect, but 16 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 23 yards. I kind of watched a little bit of this game, and from what I saw, he had a couple of more catches that he should have had. The ball wasn't thrown the best in the world, but still kind of hit off his fingertips, and he could have had probably a couple more receptions. Another thing to point out here with the Chiefs, no receivers over 50 yards. Dwayne Bowe, again, just disappoints with 4 catches for 30 yards. But going back to Charles again here for a second, I kind of tweeted this out a little bit earlier today. His touchdown that he had was a 2-yard rushing touchdown. He hasn't had a rushing touchdown inside the 5 since 2010. So it just kind of tells you he hasn't been that goal line guy probably ever in his career. If, maybe back then, there's Thomas Jones back then, so probably not even then. He might have just got lucky that one game, but it's been years since he's been handed the ball inside the 5, and he's going to get that this year. He's my number 2 running back overall this year. Adrian Peterson and him. I've been saying it all preseason.
I think it's a case of here we go again with Andy Reid not giving one of his best players the ball enough.
But like I said, 19 touches.
Yeah, I always wanted more for LaShawn, too, when he was
had
there.
a couple more off his fingertips, though, that wasn't Andy Reid's fault. He should have had 21, 22 touches, which you don't really want Charles getting much more than that.
You know what? Banged up again. Got a quad issue right now.
He came back in and played.
I know, but it's still something being talked. It's just, I don't know. He's been getting banged up a lot lately. He's a little guy. Definitely not number 2 for me. That's LaShawn McCoy.
Nah. All right.
Hey, one other thing, though. Bo, buy low. I don't think this is going to be what you're going to continue to see from him. He's a very good receiver. He's their best by far. I think Alex Smith is a good quarterback. The only concern is he's missed a check down, but yeah, I'm going to go get Dwayne Bowe. If I can get him at 70 cents on the dollar right now.
From what I watched in this game, though, he was not looking at Dwayne Bowe's way at all. He was not. It wasn't.
Led the team in targets, tied with 2 others.
It just in the beginning of the game, he was
sorry.
He was not looking. He was not looking his way that much. I'm worried about Bowe. Another guy I'm kind of worried about, MJD. 15 carries for 45 yards, no receptions. Their offensive line did not look good. MJD did not look good. I'm kind of a little bit excited that, Henne came in for Gabbert after Gabbert cut his hand, and, Gabbert's already going to be out for week 2. So maybe this is finally like Henne's team, and Henne can take over and just be the guy for the rest of the year. Because if so, I think that's going to boost Cecil Shorts and Justin Blackmon and hopefully open up everything for MJD. It can't be any worse than what's like with Gabbert, right?
Yeah, I think what happened actually is the coaches had to watch him play again, and they probably had the trainer cut his hand on purpose while he was taping somebody up, so you can make an excuse to get him out of there. He's awful.
He's terrible.
Henne is not a good.
Your Vikings should do that with Ponder.
Yeah, I'd love it. Henne is, I don't think, any better of a real quarterback, but he's a much better fantasy quarterback. He's not scared to stretch the field. He's going to help Cecil Shorts. And Justin Blackmon, a guy to go make sure you pick up real soon here. The closer it gets to the game.
Not this week, but next week, I think.
Yeah, but week by week, the chance of you getting him is going to go down. So if you've got a spot, you've got somebody that you can just go get rid of. Keep an eye on him for sure, and maybe do it this week to make sure you're the guy that's getting in there first on it.
So, Rams 27, Cardinals 24, Darrell Richardson 20 out of 21 running back carries for 63 yards. Matt is loving it, apparently. The other guy he's loving a lot. He feels his Jared Cook call was amazing. I get it. 7 catches, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Should have probably had a third one. There's always so much hype with Jared Cook, and it's one game. I need to see it 1 or 2 more times before I buy into it. I really do.
I'm all in, baby. I love him. He lined up at wide receiver most of the plays.
Yeah, and he did that.
I'd love to see the
Titans.
ratio. He is a physical freak. Obviously, that's no surprise. Like you said, it should have had 3 touchdowns. Mathieu made a great play, and really no fault of Jared Cook. He was just sprinting straight ahead. Mathieu had the angle and punched that ball out. It was a great play by Mathieu, and that's what he does. He makes plays. But I'm loving Jared Cook. I am absolutely loving Jared Cook.
We're moving on from Jared Cook. I don't want to talk about this.
I'll tell you I love him again.
I don't want to talk about it. Okay, Cardinals.
Hey, Tavon Austin.
Ugh.
No, not excited.
6 receptions, 41 yards.
Yeah, 7 targets, first game. He's exciting. He's an exciting player. And Darrell Richardson, I'm waiting to see something about this, but he got hurt in this game. Remember, we were watching it. He comes out, he gets taped up. He comes sprinting back on the field, gets Zach Stacy out like he's already, I'm coming, and then you saw him stop, shake his head, limp in. They didn't really talk about it much. The announcers didn't bring it up, but I want to see what happened to him. I think he fought through an injury in this game, maybe a sprained ankle, something like that, maybe a foot. I thought he looked pretty good, and he actually got a lot of work, 25 touches.
Yeah,
so he didn't score, he didn't get many points. Is he a buy low for you?
No. He's another one of those guys in the Mendenhall range, that just Bradshaw range, that I think this is what you're going to get out of him. 60 to 80 yards, total yards, and maybe a touchdown here and there, but that's not a guy that I'm going out to target, I guess.
I thought the offense looked pretty good, and he's somebody I'd look to get if you can get him at the right price.
So, Cardinal side of the ball, though, Mendenhall, 16 carries for 60 yards. Alfonso Smith, though, chipping in with 10 carries. Big days for all the receivers here. Andre Roberts, 8 for 97. Michael Floyd, 8 for 42. And then Larry Fitzgerald, the guy I've been toting all year, is a top 5 wide receiver. 8 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's back. He is back.
Oh, yeah. And we all knew that, or at least here at Blindside Football, we all knew that. We all loved him coming in. He looked awesome. Carson Palmer looked good. Larry Fitzgerald probably went out and got shit-faced Sunday night thinking, well, no, he didn't, because Larry is not a guy like that, but he's got a quarterback again. He must be so happy after what he's had to deal with for the last few years.
He has a Palmer shrine at his
house. I
house.
love Larry Fitzgerald. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Alfonso Smith, 10 for 26. The only thing he's good at doing is trying to get his Twitter followers up. That bum. Didn't he follow you for a minute?
He followed me, got me to follow him back, and then next day unfollowed me.
Yeah, I guess when he's
thanks, Alfonso Smith.
I guess when you're that awful, you gotta try to do tactics to get your follows up.
God, crazy.
Hey, Mendenhall, love him. I know he was one of my my bold predictions. He didn't quite live up to what I was hoping. He was in the game for over 50% of the snaps, more like 60-65%, and they're easing him back. I think you're going to see Alfonso get less carries. I thought Rashard looked pretty good, and I expect him to get involved in the passing game. It's something he can do. The offense looked good, just like I said it would. I like Rashard Mendenhall. Buy low for me.
49ers 34, Packers 28. Kaepernick proved that he doesn't need Michael Crabtree to get things done. Over 400 yards passing, first time in his career, 300 in a regular season game. Gore, mundane, 21 carries, 44 yards and a touchdown. Bolden and Davis both go off in the receiving game. Bolden over 200 yards receiving a touchdown. Davis almost 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Kaepernick is not going to have 400 yards passing every game. Bolden, I think, is going to come back down to earth, but even so, he is obviously their number one receiver. Getting lots of targets, lots of receptions. Anybody that drafted this guy, you're loving it right now. Hold on to him. Even if you only get 6 or 7 receptions a game, that's still going to be amazing for you. Your lottery ticket hit. Get ready to cash it in.
Yeah, unbelievable. 17 targets. He looked awesome.
Yeah.
He's a beast out there. He's not a guy that's going to blow you away with his speed. He's not going to out-jump you. But he's strong. He uses his body to make sure he's in position to catch it. Loved what I saw. Are you worried about Frank Gore, 21 for 44 at all?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep. Yeah, he's getting old. At some point, I think they need to make the move to Michael James, and then obviously maybe not this year, but next year to Marcus Lattimore. Maybe get a little bit of Kendall Hunter in there, but he's getting old. They talked about limiting his carries. Obviously, they didn't by giving him 21 here, but they talked about limiting his carries for the year to keep him fresh for the postseason. I'm worried. But Packers side of the ball, Rodgers is Rodgers, over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Lacey gets his first touchdown of his NFL career. Nelson and Cobb both go over 100 yards and a touchdown. And then Finley, 56 yards and a touchdown. No catches from James Jones. What do you take on the Packers passing game?
Well, on Lacey, I think it's buy low. I got a bunch of these.
I said passing game.
I know what you said, but I didn't want to just glance over Lacey. For the passing game, Jordy Nelson, Jesus, guy that just kind of sneaked under the radar, and he looked good.
The knee injury scared everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Randall Cobb, 7 catches, looked awesome. Beautiful touchdown that he had. Finley, he dropped the pass, but it was good to see Rodgers come back to him. I know you have him in a couple leagues. The guy's a great athlete, and if Rodgers is going to trust in him, he got 8 targets. I like what I see out of him, too. This offense is obviously going to be amazing. It always is. And Rodgers spreads the ball around very well. It was a little bit interesting to see James Jones with just 2 targets and absolutely nothing on the board there. Not that we were expecting huge things from him, but I wouldn't drop him, after a game like this at all. Rodgers, yes, exactly who we thought he was. Anything you saw here that's in particular that you really want to make sure you...
No, I mean, you're starting all your Packers receivers. Oh, yeah. Like you said, James Jones, don't panic and drop him yet, but I obviously don't think he's going to be the guy that he was last year. Just keep an eye on him. If someone is offering you something for him, thinking they're buying low, sell. If you get 80 cents on the dollar on James Jones, I'm taking it. Because I think he obviously is starting to be the odd man out. Cowboys 36, Giants 31. Cowboys, Murray gets 20 of the 21 running back carries in this game for 86 yards. Receiving game, Dez got banged up in this one, only 4 catches for 22 yards. Nice to see Miles Austin, though, 10 catches for 72 yards, and Jason Witten hauling in the touchdowns, just like you'd expect with the receptions, too. 8 receptions, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Any takeaways from Cowboy side of the ball?
I'll pat myself on the back for my bold prediction, Austin outscoring Dez, but just keep an eye on Dez. It's a foot injury. You don't like to see those.
Yeah, it's something you definitely want to keep an eye on, but hopefully he'll be back this week, and we'll kind of be back to the probably 2nd, 3rd round pick you drafted him to be. Giants side of the ball, though, this was some pretty big news. David Wilson gets benched after 2 early fumbles. Finishes with 7 carries for 19 yards and those 2 fumbles. Actually had negative points in fantasy football leagues. Darrell Scott comes in, 5 of 23 rushing. I think he had 5 more catches receiving for 51 yards. They signed Brandon Jacobs though today. He obviously knows the playbook from his being there before. He's been in this role before as kind of the bruiser, the short yardage goal line guy. Wasn't obviously happy when he left New York. But what's your take on Brandon Jacobs?
I think he's just there, like you said. He knows the system, so he's a guy that's can come in and
a quick fill-in guy.
Yeah, he's a guy that can come in and play probably next week here and there. I think Wilson's obviously still the man there, and I'm not touching Jacobs.
Yeah. Receiving game though, everybody involved in the receiving game, all the receivers here. Cruz, Nix, Randall, all over 100 yards. Cruz obviously with the 3 touchdowns. Even Brandon Myers, the tight end, got chipped in here for 7 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown. Eli Manning's not going to throw for 450 yards every week. Randall, expect that to come down. There's no way Randall's going to have.
Right.
If I had to put the over/under on 2 more 100-yard games for Randall, I might take the under.
It's just we talked about him as a handcuff. If that happens, then way over. I think he's a great player.
Okay, right. If somebody gets hurt, but
you're saying
if all 3
everybody's
are playing,
healthy, yeah,
he's not going to have over
right.
two more games.
450 yards isn't going to happen regularly.
No. Eagles 33, Redskins 27. That up-tempo offense it looked amazing. It just looked so good. We've all heard the stats, 30 plays in the first quarter for the Eagles, 53 in the first half. They were just pounding the ball, moving it. Chip Kelly today said he actually wanted it to be a little bit faster. They wanted them to actually hand the ball to the refs a little bit quicker so they can get more plays in.
He was actually mad. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. LaShawn McCoy, 31 carries for 184 yards and a touchdown. Deshaun Jackson, big day, 7 catches, 104 yards and a touchdown. All of D-Jax's stats there coming in the first half. They kind of moved away from the pass in the second half, even though they were obviously running the ball a lot in the first half as well. But obviously, the up-tempo offense, this is LaShawn McCoy's team. He is going to be a beast this year.
Yeah, I've moved him up to my season ranks number 2. He's number 1 for me this week. I've got him ahead of Adrian because of the matchup Adrian's got. Like you said, this offense is made for him. He's the best open field runner we have in football today, the best I've seen since Barry Sanders. And in this offense, he seems to be in the open field, even when he's in the backfield getting it. The way they spread everybody out. I'm pumped about LaShawn McCoy this year. 31 carries, I think, is a little much. They'll have to get that down, and that's why I love Bryce Brown, as a guy to have on your bench. And certainly if you have LaShawn, make sure you get him.
Yeah, I wrote an article about this, I think, back in February, just saying that Bryce Brown is going to be probably flex-worthy because of how much he's going to be used in this offense. Yeah. Because you can't give LaShawn McCoy 30 carries a game.
He only had 9 carries, right?
Yeah, I think something.
So
yeah,
I think what happens, Chip will look at the box score here and say, we want to be closer to 25.
Wants to get him more involved. Wants it to be closer to probably 25 for McCoy and 15 for Brown, something like that. So he'll definitely be flex-worthy.
And Vic looked awesome. I love him. I got him way up my ranks this week. Just depends when he's going to get hurt. I think he's going to.
Yeah, at some point he will. They can't stay with this up-tempo offense for this long and him not get popped a few times. Redskins side, though, RG3 looked really rusty. Had a couple of picks. Didn't really run the ball as much as you remember him, doing last year. Speaking of looking rusty, though, Alfred Morris, fumbled on his first carry of the game. I think the very next drive, they pitched the ball to him that he missed that,
safety
got turned into a safety.
Yep.
12 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Everybody on Twitter was going nuts saying, free Roy Halou, bring Roy Halou
and
in.
he got what?
I don't
2 touches, I think?
Nothing. He did absolutely nothing. Hankerson breaks out here, 5 catches for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Garcon, 7 catches, 64 yards. Are you buying into the Hankerson thing here a little bit?
No, I don't think so, although he had a decent preseason. I remember a catch specifically, that one-handed grab he made. No, but possible. He's a young player who's a guy that's was supposed to be good coming out. Keep an eye on it, but nobody I'm rushing to pick up this week. And Garcon, we saw him kind of limping around. I guess it was a cramp thing, so nothing really to worry about.
So Texans 31, Chargers 28. Schaub 3 passing touchdowns, 2 of them to Owen Daniels. Foster looked rather mundane. He got 24 touches, but really didn't do much with them. Only 90 total yards. Andre Johnson, obviously, he's a beast. As long as Andre Johnson's healthy, he's almost a top 5 wide receiver, I feel. 12 catches, 146 yards, no touchdowns. He never schemes to score that touchdown. Foster is looking like he's fallen off the cliff, kind of like what I said in my article earlier this year. I mean, got a lot of touches still, but no touchdowns, not a lot of yards. I mean, he is so touchdown dependent.
Oh, God, I disagree. I think it's just a case that he's getting back into football shape. I'm not worried about Arian at all. I think it's good he came out as healthy as he came in. And he got 18 carries. Everyone thought it was going to be a 50-50, but I'm still absolutely fine with Arian. And, yeah, Andre Johnson is a stud.
Chargers side, Phillip Rivers throws 4 touchdowns probably for the first time in his life.
No, he was good back in the day. But, geez. God, he was awful in this game.
Yeah,
Don't let the 4 touchdowns fool you.
I was going to say, the 3 touchdowns in the first half looked great, but second half, just Jesus. Ryan Matthews, 15 touches for 55 yards, 1 touchdown on a very, very nice catch, but really wasn't getting much done. And then no receivers had over 3 receptions for the Chargers. 2 touchdowns for Eddie Royal, 1 for Vincent Brown. I mean, somebody from the Chargers receiving corps has to kind of pop, right? I mean, who's it going to be?
I think it's still going to be Vincent Brown, but I don't know. Nobody here on this team at all excites me, including Ryan Matthews. He looked good running the ball, but he didn't get it done, just like is usually the case. And he's not the third down back. He's coming out in most every third down situation.
Yeah, they put Ronnie Brown in there on a lot of the third downs. Not very much Danny Woodhead, which was surprising.
Right, surprising, yeah.
Matthews also came out on the 2-minute drives, in favor of Ronnie Brown. So Ronnie Brown obviously looking more like the handcuff for Ryan Matthews if you're handcuffing pieces of crap. If you're in that business, it's Ronnie Brown.
Yeah, because all he is literally Ronnie and Brown.
Right. That was my team name
pieces
one
of
year.
Crap.
Ronnie and Brown. So waiver wire claims. Let's just jump into these real quick here. I mean, we've kind of talked about these guys. Jordan Cameron, obviously, if he's still out there, you got to go grab him. Julius Thomas, he's another guy I think you got to grab. Jared Cook.
He's pretty widely owned, I think, but yeah, if he's out there, get him.
Yeah, I mean, I think those 3 guys are probably the biggest pickups of the week. Julian Edelman, I think, will be a big pickup and should be.
Especially with the news of Amendola. He's going to be out Thursday night.
Yep.
It's a big pickup. He might be the number 1 pickup.
So, I mean, beyond that, Matt, do you have anybody that you can think of that should be a waiver wire pickup? I mean, we talked about Brandon Jacobs and maybe a Patriots running back, but you don't know which one. I mean, is there anybody else?
I like Marlon Brown from Baltimore. 6'5".
With Jacoby being out now?
Yep, Jacoby's out 4 to 6 weeks, strained MCL. So he's a guy I definitely like. He looked good when he came in that second half, or last 3 quarters or so. He's a 6'5" guy that's got great body control, huge target. I got to figure he's going to be a red zone threat. Who else do they have for a red zone threat on that team? So
little guy named Ray Rice.
Yeah, but to throw the football.
Ed Dixon?
I don't know if he's a red zone threat. I think this kid's going to be somebody to keep an eye on. So I think that's about it, though.
So just previewing our Thursday night game, because we're not coming back until Friday to do our second podcast of the week. We're going to preview Thursday night's game here. Jets at Patriots. As we kind of mentioned, Vereen out a couple weeks. I think we kind of touched on this, but you're ranking with. I have Ridley outside the top 20, I think, this week. It's very possible he could, obviously be a top 10 back this week, but I mean, I'm worried about Belichick and how he's going to handle his role. What are the other running backs going to get for work, you think?
Actually, more than a couple weeks on Vereen.
Oh, right. He's out until week 11 because of the IR designation.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I was just looking it up to make sure on the day. What was the question you asked me?
What other running back? What do you think the other running backs are going to
in New England
are going to accomplish this week? Like, if you had to put a stat line out for Bolden and a stat line for Blount right now, what would it be? Blount,
just because
carries.
I have no clue, I'll say they each get 5 carries and they each get 20 yards. But I think Ridley's still going to get 18 to 20 carries.
See, I was going to say with Amendola out, Gronk out, Sudfeld out, I could see them going to a running game.
Yeah,
heavy. And, like I said, Ridley getting 12 to 15 carries, Blount getting 8 to 10, and Bolden getting 6 to 8. That's that type of thing. I think they go, heavy running against the Jets. They're going to be up against the Jets. It's just going to be ground and pound. no sense in throwing the ball and getting any more of your receivers
Hey, we
hurt.
thought they were going to be up against the Bills.
This is true, but playing in Gillette, whole other ball game. Jets side of the ball, you're not starting any of these guys, right? None of these guys. I mean,
Nope. Literally, yeah. What a pathetic offense.
Even their defense and special teams, you're not touching them against the Patriots.
Nope.
I mean, Geno Smith, no. Chris Ivory, no. Bilal Powell, no. Steven Jackson, Santonio Holmes, no.
Chris Ivory, bum.
Kellen Winslow, no. It's just completely inept. There's just nobody there. So make sure to follow me and Matt on Twitter. Follow Matt at Matt Dugal and me at Marcus Katkin. Make sure to use hashtag BlindsidePod or email us blindside@blindsidefootball.com for your questions. And then as a new little thing, Matt and I every Sunday will be live tweeting from noon to 1 o'clock. Going to live tweet all your start-sit questions, so hit us up using hashtag AskBlindside on Sunday afternoons, around noontime. We'll help you with all your start-sit questions. But 3 questions for this week's podcast. I'm going to totally butcher this too. I think it's Davijon, at Davijon on Twitter, asks, should I trade Jordan Cameron and Pierre Garçon for Brandon Marshall and Jermaine Gresham in a PPR league?
Yes.
I think both of us obviously really, really like Jordan Cameron.
Yeah,
and
I love Marshall.
I like Garçon more than most. But Brandon Marshall in a PPR league, if you have the chance of getting him, you need to go get him.
122 catches last year.
Yeah, you need to go get him.
So that's a definite yes, both of us.
Yes, right? So go make that trade, get Brandon Marshall.
Quickly before he changes his mind.
Yes. Hank Drebin, at LT Hank Drebin. Kind of reminds me of the old Leslie Nielsen there from the Naked Gun movies, Lieutenant Drebin. I just kind of like that. But he asks, would you play the waivers for 12 weeks on a defense and kind of stream a defense? Or with the Broncos available, would you pick up their team defense and hold on to them for the season?
If Peyton Manning's going to throw 7 touchdowns every week, that defense is going to be on the field a lot. Now he's not going to throw 7 touchdowns.
But they looked
good.
They
did. But no, I'm going to stream defenses. They are only going to get better, though. Miller's coming back.
Well, here's my thing. Pick them up and go with them for a couple of weeks, and if they don't turn out, then go back to streaming.
Yeah.
Use the Broncos
pick them up now.
Use the Broncos as your streaming defense if you have to for the next week or two, and just see how it goes.
Do you know off the top of your head who they have this week? I don't have anything in front of me right now with who they're playing.
And I did look at this earlier, and I can't.
We just did.
They play against the Giants because it's Manning Bowl.
Yeah, that's going to be. I don't know if I want to play him this week.
Eli throws a lot of picks.
I know, but brother versus brother. I don't know. He had 450 yards passing this week.
And he's probably going to have another 400 yards this week because they're not going to be able to run the ball with Wilson and Jacobs.
Yeah, and think about it. Bailey was out last week. Obviously, Miller will be coming back in a few weeks, so it could be a good defense for sure.
So, 2 more questions. We got @_THNR asks, should I drop Eric Decker to pick up Julius Thomas? He says he already has Jordan Cameron and Greg Olsen. He says you can flex a tight end.
No, drop Greg Olsen to pick up Julius Thomas.
It's close.
You don't have Eric Decker over Greg Olsen as a flex.
I have Decker over. Yeah, I agree. You're not dropping Decker. I think you're keeping Decker.
Yeah. Oh, so you might not want to drop Olsen for Thomas. I do.
That's tough. Like I said, I think Julius Thomas is, now that there's going to be game tape on him that people could watch and plan for. Obviously, the Ravens couldn't adjust to him like they needed to on the fly. I think other teams are going to be able to do that. And Manning, again, not going to have 7 touchdowns every week, and he's going to spread the ball out to Decker more.
I'm going to change your mind right now. Eric Decker and Cameron are going to start for you every week, right?
Sure.
Why not have more upside on the bench? What if Thomas... Olsen doesn't have the upside. Thomas may.
Meh.
A bench guy, that's how you play usually. Don't tell me you don't. You want the high upside.
It is, but if you go back and look at it, I think from week 12 on, Olsen was the number 2 or number 3 fantasy tight end last year.
Yeah, well...
Doesn't get much better than number 2 or number 3.
Trust me, drop Greg Olsen for Julius Thomas.
I think I stick with what you got, but I wouldn't blame you if you drop Olsen for Thomas. And then he asks, he has Tony Romo as his quarterback. Would you back him up with Sam Bradford or Terrell Pryor? And this is one where, again, like you said, I always go upside. So, yes, I would go Terrell Pryor here.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Although
Bradford did play well.
Although it does kind of depend for me a little bit on Romo's injury and how this plays out.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Spot starting Pryor. I'm not comfortable with him being my every week starter, though.
Yeah, right. Not yet.
If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, I hear what you're saying.
I'm okay for plugging him in for a week or two. But if you know, I mean, obviously Romo is not going to be out for multiple weeks, if any time at all. But if you find out for some reason later in the season Romo is going to be out for an extended period of time, I'm not rolling with Pryor for an extended period of time.
Yeah, one thing to look at, and again, I'm sorry I don't have him right here. Maybe, Romo, you're going to play over those guys every week. When the bye week comes, what do the matchups look like? Who do you like more? Maybe that's something to look at. So I agree with you, though. Go with the upside and Pryor, but if you're relying on him week to week, I like Bradford more, and there's probably others out there that you can get.
Yeah, so that does it for the Week 1 recap and the preview on the Thursday night game. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to start doing 2 podcasts a week, so check back with us on Friday night. We'll have a podcast for you kind of recapping the Thursday night game and then giving you a preview into this weekend's games. I don't got anything else. You got anything, Matt?
Nope, that's about it.
All right, so check back in on Friday, guys. We'll talk to you then.
Yep.
Yo, check it, it's my time. I'm rapping about Blindside, fantasy football podcast in this rhyme because they got me the inside scoop on Adrian Peterson. Yeah, he's that dude on Cam Newton. Yeah, they give me the news more on Megatron, Calvin Johnson if I stay tuned. On all quarterbacks, RG3 happens to be the fastest QB in the league. In fact, Colin Kaepernick is rider QB for them 49ers. It ain't hard to see, Some awesome people hosting Marcus Katkin and Matt Dugal. You should be joining. Skinny or fat, short or tall, anyone can tune in to Blindside Football. Have a try, dude. Listen on iTunes or Blindside